Hey everyone, we're gonna wait just a couple more minutes here. We need two more board members for our quorum before we start. Now one more. So thank you all for being here. We'll start shortly, and our guest is not on yet either. Hi Lucille, thank you for being here.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
We are waiting on just at least one more board member here for before we can get started. But please accept my apologies for the timeliness. But we'll get going shortly here.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
All right, thank you for waiting. We have one more minute here. We'll have another member in. It's earlier than our normal meeting, so I think some people just expected it to be at 5:30 when it's at 5. And we have 2 members that are unable to attend tonight, so I just want to make sure we have a quorum before we start. Welcome to our special meeting of the MCS Board of Directors. It's Thursday, November 2nd. It's El Dia de los Muertos. It's just after 5 p.m. And we have a special guest today, Lucille Begay, who's our Native American liaison. I did not receive any pre-submitted public comments. Does anyone have any changes to our agenda? And since I'm sharing my screen, I only see a select few people. So if you have a change, please either voice your change or raise your hand. And without any changes, so just get an approval of the agenda. Make a motion that we approve agenda as it's stated here. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Emily. All those in favor? Any opposed, please voice your opposition. Okay. That brings us to item number 4, which is a presentation by our guest speaker. And Lucille, if you have anything that you need me to share, or if you want to share your screen, let me know if you need to do that.
Hi, good evening. I'm happy to be here tonight to be alongside all of you, even though it's Zoom. This is the new, the new that we do. So my name is Lucille Begay. I am from Celilo Village, born and raised, and I am of the Yakama Nation as well as the Umatilla, Nez Perce, and Navajo Nation. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be welcomed into your space tonight. I wanted to come and talk to you tonight about what my role is. I currently was the Native American liaison for the Columbia Gorge ESD. And because of funding, many of us in the world, we get let go because of funding and things like that. And unfortunately, I am now a substitute teacher within D21 and Hood River School District. And prior to me being a liaison, I was also a substitute prior. But I've found my passion working with Native American students from kindergarten to grade 12. And so what my job consists of is I did a lot of pushing into classrooms to give academic support to our students. And I ranged from the Dalles within the D21 as well as South Wasco, and then on out into Mosier, up into Hood River, as far as up towards Parkdale area, all the way out to Cascade Locks. And just being the only liaison, I was spread, pretty thin, but those students that really needed the academic support, and maybe it consists of behavioral issues or attendance, or maybe they just needed someone that identifies as them, to kind of help certain situations that came across within the principals or the teachers or the counselors. That's where I would step in. And through my job, I've also done different cultural. So I would push into classroom as well and talk about culture. And I'm not sure if any of you have heard of SB 13. It is a curriculum that's being taught in the schools. And it's something that came from the ODE, the Oregon Department of Education. And I did a lot of the trainings on that. And with the guidance of ODE, I was able to help and come in and talk about culture and talk about my upbringing from being raised in Celilo and talking about whether it be like petroglyphs or talk about the history or the tribes or, you know, the fishing rights or the native foods and native plants, as well as our language. And so those different aspects I did with my work with where I was working at. So I wanted to come on here today to see how I can be more support to Mosier. And I have worked with Mosier prior. There was a couple of students that I did work with, and I just wanted to kind of give a little background of what I do and the support that I do with this Native American students. And even with, if it's not Native American students, if there's teachers that need me to come in and read storytelling or tell stories or legend stories or talk about culture, or because like this month, November, is Indigenous Month. So I think it's profound right now for this month to utilize. And I emphasize it doesn't have to be me. You know, there's Confluence. You look up Confluence. They're a nonprofit out there that you can turn to, as well as the ODE has different references. And so those are other entities that you can look at to have people come in and talk about things that may play a part in the curriculum that you may teach. So I wanted to bring out that much so far.
Thank you, Lucille. Is there anyone who has any questions for Lucille after her intro statement here? I know that our ED, Matt Henry, has had quite a bit of experience in his past engaging with the Native American community when he worked over in Bend, the Bend area. So
Yeah, Lucille, I was literally texting my sister because I think you might have taught one of her daughters. So I love everything you're saying. It's so encouraging.
Hi, this is Emily. Lucille, thank you for coming and being with us tonight and sharing this. I wanted to just ask, what has been the involvement in the past with Mosier School, and what has that looked like? I don't know. I'm new, and I don't know if somebody, either Lucille or somebody else, has more information on involvement with Mosier School specifically.
I don't have the information either, no.
Just a little bit from what I can, from what I've had. I've been really passionate about helping with Native American students. And I know that there was a boundary with me coming to Mosier because I'm not licensed in certain areas to help certain students with the different academic needs that they had. And, you know, let's say a student needed someone to just sit there and give them that support, whether they lashed out or they couldn't, you know, be still in class, or so an IEP student, for instance, I don't have that specialty or, you know, degree in hand to support those students, but these were coming from parents. And when I had approached my supervisor, he says, well, we can no longer have you out there supporting these students because you're not specialized in those needs. And so there was pushback with parents because it's like, well, it seemed to me I had a good relationship with the students that I would support, but I had to kind of go away because of this decision that was made. But that's all I can say is there was support that I was given to Mosier, but then I was let go because of that. So it comes in different angles when the schools are saying we need a liaison to come support our students, but not giving total demographics behind the students, whether they have an IEP or whatever it is that is outside of the work that I do. And it's kind of, I don't know, to me, it's kind of saddening in a way, because these students seem to work better with someone that identifies as them. And for me, if now that I do volunteer work, I'm able to be with these students and not feel that I am being told I can't. So I look at these students, if little Tom has me support him 3-4 times out of the week and get him ready for a test, or get him ready to get ready for different testing that's coming up, it was limiting me when I was through the ESD. I was only able to go once a week. And so now I'm doing more volunteer work to give more support to the students. So let's say that if any of your students needed me to come in and even as a volunteer, because like I said, I've grown to love to what I do. If you guys needed me to come in and get a child ready for a spelling test, or get them ready for a reading test, or even help them get their scores up with their reading, or even pulling them out of class, pulling them into the library to do the extra reading, because I know a lot of the students, when they are given the homework and being sent home with it, a lot of the times it's not being done. And coming from a Native home, and it's hard. And I'm sure Matt Henry might agree with this. As Native American students, it's a different lifestyle, and they don't get the support from their families, or maybe their home is an undereducated home that the parents aren't able to even understand or even help them. And even like having them at an after school program, transportation is a big thing. So, and having them be a part of different, maybe with band or music or performing or part of sports. And I think if there was more leverage with transportation and all these different things that are barriers for these children, I think their academic would be, more successful in a way. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, Dan, but that's what I can give as far as what history I have from working with Mosier here.
Lucille, we had a student, I believe 2 years ago in middle school, you used to come and sit with in science. You know who I'm talking about? Yeah. And that whenever you were there, it really made a difference for him. So is that something like, would you be able to come again as a volunteer and do something like that?
So I do have a clearance with D21 as a volunteer, but that would also be up to, I guess, with the teachers if they're open to that. And even as far as Mosier, if you guys are open to having me come and be with the student and just making sure they're not out wandering the halls, or they're, saying I'm going to the bathroom and then they're out wandering elsewhere, or just, giving them the academic support, I'm more than happy to be that person, that go-to person. And like I said, I'm not licensed in any special areas, but I think that just giving them that support and just having someone beside them and encouraging them, because sometimes the students will say, well, yeah, the teacher explained what's going on, but then we're just let go. And then once we're all sitting there, we're like fumbled. I don't know what to do. I don't understand. I don't want to ask for help because I'm embarrassed. I'm below level. I'm below reading level. I can't write. I don't know how to spell. So those are the different factors that I hear from students. So if I can come in and help them and get their ideas going and keep them on task, and a lot of students feel embarrassed when I would come sit with them and I'd say, well, let's find a way that works for you. Is there a free period? Is there something that you can be pulled from so that way you're not missing out? Sure, go ahead and sit in class and be present, but let's find a time that works for you so we can make sure that you're staying on track. And even the big thing with schooling is absent. Why are these students being absent? Where are they? They're not being counted for. And so, trying to be respectful of the culture, maybe they're fishing, maybe they're out doing a ceremony, or maybe they're sick, and That's what I try to emphasize to the different schools, that really be open-minded with when it comes to cultural part, because it's very sensitive. And so making sure that even home visits, I would go to homes and say, hey, how's things going? I'm not coming in to be in your space for any wrongdoing, but I just want to check on little Mary. How's she doing? I'm the liaison, or some of them already have heard of me. And they tell me, well, my student needs this, my student needs that, or even like backpacks. They need a backpack. They need a pack of pencils. Do they need school supplies? Or do they need clothing? Do they need food? So there's all different kind of resources that I help with the Native American students. And so that's what I can say more about.
Lucille, I would just add that I wasn't here whenever you were here, but from my experience in Madras with the Warm Springs Native kids, I taught a high school class there of history of the Confederated Tribes. And everything you're saying is just so spot on and accurate. Did you mention, I wanted to ask earlier, didn't you say you're substituting in the Dalles and Hood River? So you're certified to substitute?
To a certain extent. I can be a teacher assistant if a teacher needs an aide in the classroom, playground, certain things like that, but I'm not licensed to. I'm a classified substitute. So I'm limited.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Well,
I'm limited to what I can do.
depending on your schedule, I mean, I hate to be so upfront about it, but I think you coming in that type of a position again in this district would be very powerful. I totally affirm the ability of the kids, the students, to identify someone who is from their culture. That's super powerful. But I also feel like the insights that you have of the culture, I would dare to say many kids maybe do not know much of. Last thing I would say, I was honored to utilize the elders in Madras, and I'll never forget that a couple of them, when they were under 10 years of age, literally had witnessed the Salilo being covered because they were on the hillside watching that. So I just hope we can really work with you moving forward.
And even things such as that, like, I don't know if you guys do assemblies, like bringing in the culture and bringing more, being diverse and bringing that diversity to your school. I mean, what does Mosier identify as Indigenous? And are these students, do they even know who they are? Because even we have Native American students that are in the system. I mean, can you imagine being in foster care and growing up not even know who you are? And I know this from what I witnessed, because we have a lot of students that are in the system, they're in foster care, and we have non-Native families bringing their children to different cultures and different activities that happen. And if you guys want to have a literacy night, I mean, if you guys want me to come read or bring in someone or an elder or talk about Salilo, or even bring in Native American dancers or elders, I mean, like I said, there's resources out there. And I'm sure there's so many people out there that are willing to, bring the culture, because our students are our future. They're the next in line. They're the next generation. And we want to make sure that the culture doesn't die out, and even like in your hallways, is there anything that the students can make Indigenous? Can the Native American students, is there something that you guys can do to help them feel a place of honoring for themselves? Is there a billboard that can say, hey, November's Indigenous month, or can I come have a luncheon with the students? Can I say, hey, you guys identify as Native American? Who knows about who you are? And if you don't, what is it that you would like to know? Maybe having their first regalia, or things like that. So it just takes someone to take them by the hand, to take the time, or even getting the parents involved, talking to the parents and saying, what are your thoughts and ideas? What can you bring to the table? Because this just being the board, you guys are the one leading it, but at the same time, it's important to get that parent feedback as well. So I just wanted to say that too. Thank you.
So see, all those things you're talking about have a lot of value, and I think that all students in our school really benefit from that, from some knowledge of just the local history that isn't taught a lot of times. And so I'm definitely interested in seeing how we can connect you with Matt and Jen and getting some of those things you talked about set up at the school, so we can bring that message to the greater population here in Mosier. Go ahead, Emily.
Another thing, just in the spirit of brainstorming, pretty soon we're going to be seeing some steelhead and coho shooting up Rock Creek once it gets watered up, and taking the kids, because the kids can walk down there pretty easily, and having a lesson about the importance of salmon first foods and all of that would be pretty cool to offer the kids.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of parallels between what Lucille's talking about, but also just their land that we're living in, and like for example, Rock Creek and the salmon that we see. Our kids go down every year and see that. So it's to see the history and how valuable that is to the community. It'd be really great to be able to tie that together.
And I will
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm part of the Tiger's Den, which is basically our PTA, and we've certainly expressed our desire to have a Native presence, and so we have a meeting next week, next Wednesday, and I'd be happy to send you that information if you would like to help us plan anything, some fun events. We'd love to include you.
Okay. And I always tell schools that it doesn't have to be very long. I don't know how long your assemblies are. I actually have 3 going on for this month out at Chenoweth School. They have assemblies every Friday. And it brings the kids together, and they're always stoked. And as soon as they know that they get off of their vehicle to get ready for school, they're like, we're going to the assembly. They're happy for that. And I recently was subbing at Colonel Wright, and Colonel Wright is in the works of doing something as well as the middle school, so just to like I say, that awareness is a huge thing. And when Dan was talking about land, I think that's really important. I have recently worked with Hood River School District on doing their land acknowledgement. And so land acknowledgement, it brings it kind of like you're talking to the land, and for me, I kind of get twisted about this because growing up, I never was told from my parents or my grandparents that, hey, you better go and tell everybody that this is our land, or get off our land, and remind them they're on Native land. I never grew up like that. But now, as day and ages, you hear it. You hear people say, I'm sorry, I'm on your land. This is your land. This is the land of the Native Americans. Last year, I went to the May Street School, and I talked about Celilo, and I talked about the dam, and this little boy, he was a first grader, and he was like, kept raising his hand, and he was like, I'm so sorry, Miss Lucy. And he starts crying. And I'm like, well, what are you sorry about, sweetie? She's like, I'm so sorry I'm on your land. And I said, oh, sweetheart, I said, you're more than welcome to be where you are. I said, there's no need to cry. I said, you're learning, and that's what's important, and I accepted his apology. But even like that, young age and all the way up to grade 12, there's even high schoolers that don't even know how to identify who they are, So coming back to a land acknowledgement, helping with Hood River School District, there's lots of loops to do that. It has to come from the school. It has to come from, you guys would have to form a group, and you would talk about, get the history and the land that you're on, and you would find a lead person. And even if you guys wanted to have me a part of this, because when you're working with the tribes, you have to have someone from the Yakama Nation that is a representative, because you guys would then take this land acknowledgement over to the tribes and say, you know, pitch it to them. And at first an email would go back and forth, and they would approve it, and they would say, hey, we need to make some changes, you know, and they have certain people that help with these land acknowledgements. And so then once that's finalized, then the party would go over to the agency, the tribal agency, and meet with all of the tribal council. And they would say, well, we got Mosier School here, and they've been working on the land acknowledgement, and we want to just finalize it. We want to stamp it. And then that's it. And then that day that it's finalized, that's going to be like your guys' treaty day. It'll say, hey, June 2nd, Mosier School had, you know, they went through all of these steps to do the land acknowledgement. And that is something you guys would use maybe on your website or somehow in the schools, or even have teachers that use it on their emails, you know. And when you guys have meetings like this, you would do your land acknowledgement. And I have been, growing up, we were always taught to never overstep when it comes to people older than us, our elders. And when I helped Hood River School District, the head tribal chairman, he says, before you go, Lucille, I want to tell you something. And I said, okay. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in trouble. What did I do? And he said, Lucille, stop doing land acknowledgements. And I looked at him, I'm like, what? I'm like, why? He goes, you're not the colonizer. And I'm like, that was a slap in the face. And it helped me understand. So even me as a Native American, you know, it helped me to realize that I was in the wrong. So just to let you know, if you guys go this direction as a you know, non-native, it is your job to do the land acknowledgements, and it'll be as long as you want it to be. A normal land acknowledgement will go from 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes, and it's something that is set in stone. You can't continuously change it. It has to be something that is set in stone for good. So I wanted to emphasize that and just bring that to your guys' attention if it's something that you guys wanted to work on. So thank you.
That's really good information and good process. Good to know that. I think that the teachers had something.
Hi, I'm Lisa,
Mary Ellen.
and we teach 2nd and 3rd grade at Mosier. And you were talking about how you come in and sit with Native American students to help them with schoolwork or whatnot. What kind of programs would you have available for these Native American students to connect to their culture within the schools?
I guess I usually like to leave it up to the student, because you have to know where they're coming from. Do they identify of who they even know who they are? Do they know that they are a Native American? And if they do they know what tribe they come from? And some may have an upbringing of their culture and says, wow, well, I haven't been to a powwow forever. When, you know, do you know if there's a powwow? Or, you know, so there's a broad band of all that, like that can go at all different angles. So it really kind of, I guess, as you as teachers, what kind of relationship do you have with that student, knowing anything about their background of who they are? And is there a curriculum that you guys are teaching, or anything even coming up for Indigenous that you guys may do? That is how I can slip in as well. So let's say you have a curriculum coming up that may talk about Nez Perce. Well, I can come in and talk about the Nez Perce tribe, and not only does that certain student have to be like, we don't want those students to have them a big arrow at them, say, hey, this is the Native American student and Miss Lucy's coming here and talking. I come in as a one person, and the whole classroom learns about it. And then that student will say, wow, that resonates with me. And they won't say it, but they're going to feel it. And that's going to make them feel that sense of belonging. So, I mean, I was also thinking of making t-shirts that says Indigenous, and just, you know, from the kindness of my heart, finding out what students want, that would love to wear it, you know, to show that they're Indigenous. I don't know if any of your students have long hair. That's another thing, you know, helping the students and help them know that why they have long hair and the importance behind it. And I know that my son, he has long hair and he has gone through bullying in schools. And when he was attending Dry Hollow, and students were understanding why he had long hair and what it meant. So if you guys would love to reach out to me by email and just giving me your thoughts or ideas, or even I can come to the classroom and you guys can say, hey, this is what we're thinking. Is it yes? Is it a no? How can you support this? I mean,
We would
even
love
like,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's too short of notice, because I know that we are hoping to plan an Indigenous people cultural type study and having kids connect to their own cultures, if for the month of November and part of December, if that's too short of notice for you, or do you need longer time to be asked to come into the schools? And
It depends on what day you have set aside. I, being a Native American liaison, I worked for the ESD 5 years ago. And prior to that, I was a substitute for 5 years. But since I've been with the ESD, I've gained relationships within the community. I wear 12 different hats in our community. And the reason that I have found this my passion is because when I'm on the board for the community college for Columbia Gorge. And when I first joined, I looked around in the meetings and I'm like, why am I the only person of color? Where are, you know, the other nationalities that, and it made me think that I need to help make a change. And working with students, especially like our high schoolers, how are we going to help them strive? How are we going to help them become leaders? How are we going to help them to get, you know, go to college? How are we going to help them to guide them in the right direction? So I've gained community hats to bring that, you know, diversity to our community. And I have people I know that have stepped in. And so I had a person say, you know, you've helped me guide me. You have guided me. You don't even know who I am. I know who you are because I see and I hear about you. But I have other people doing land acknowledgements now, and you know, bringing those different platforms for the Native community. So I'm very open. If you give me just a time and day, and I'll give you a yes or no. Okay. And that's just how I work.
thank you.
So it's best to reach out to you through email?
Or you can text me too. I'll leave my email and text in the chat.
Thank you.
I have another question. Do you provide education for teachers that help them kind of pull out those historically wrong aspects of Native Americans out of their lessons or out of their libraries, and kind of help them, you know, focus on the culturally appropriate things that they should be doing within their classroom? Do you provide that sort of education for teachers?
I don't, because I don't have the degree background for that. That's something you may want to reach out to ODE about, because ODE's website will show the curriculum that is expected to be taught in the classrooms. Mm-hmm. And they have their go-to people that you guys can reach out to, mm-hmm. and say, this is what's going on. Because like, I recently talked to the Dallas Middle School and I was questioning them, and I ask my son all the time, are you being taught this and that? And I show him SB 13 curriculum. He's like, no. Mm-hmm. So some of the schools are not, they just threw it under the rug. And it's because there's so many different reasonings. You know, people are not comfortable. People don't know how to go about it. They question it. When I worked with the ESD, I was working with a program through them, helping the educators do trainings. It was called Train the Trainer on SB3 train curriculum. I don't know if any of you ever sat in on those, but I give kudos to Hood River because the majority of those trainings that we tried to do, it was from Hood River educators. And I don't know what has fell through the cracks. I'm still working, trying to get in with the superintendent to see how we can push it. So the best advice I can give you is probably get a hold of ODE or the superintendent and just kind of question it, because I hear people say that, like you just said, you know, how do we go about it? How do we teach the right way without hurting feelings? But there's going to be feelings that's going to be hurt. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys have heard of the residential schools, the boarding schools. My family through the era lived it. My family, my dad, they were taken from, you know, forced to join the army, and their hair was cut. My mother went to school in Petersburg out in the country, and at 3rd grade, they grew up only talking the native language and not speaking English because that's how we grew up. And the teachers at the time would hit the students with long rulers, and my mom would come home with bruises. So my grandmother and grandfather just pulled all my aunties and uncles from school, and they were uneducated. So nowadays it's encouraging to talk to your children and tell them to go to school, get that degree, to make something of themselves. And it's important because that's why a lot of our seniors are falling through the cracks, because they can't get the support from their students, from their parents. It's not that the parents don't want to support them. It's just because the parents are uneducated themselves because they lived through the era. So it just takes the teachers and the counselors to continue to encourage them. I mean, that's what we're working on with the Columbia Gorge Community College. We're trying to get programs for the seniors to help, you know, encourage them. And so there's, you know, that's the best I can tell you.
I was just thinking in terms of like, I mean, the one that's coming up is Thanksgiving, and a lot of teachers will go into the pilgrims and, you know, the natives, and there's misrepresentation a lot in the curriculum that's pulled, and I'm searching for that kind of training that would help teachers realize, oh, well, you know, this is the more appropriate way to go about teaching things like that, or these are the sources that you should be pulling from that are more accurate.
Let me get a hold of my go-to person at the ODE, and I will get in touch with them, and then I will get back to you and have an answer for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Miriam, do you have any questions? I'd like to thank Miriam because she's the one that talked with me and asked me to be a guest, and I wanted to see if she had anything to say.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Lucille, for being here. You're such an inspiration. And I just, you know, I think, you know, non-Indigenous, non-Native folks such as myself and children, we have so much to learn from the Indigenous community and Native American history. And especially as we see the ravages of colonialism and the modern day of life and how destructive it's been towards the environment, it's clear that we have to listen to the Native community. And we're all connected, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, to the land and the waters. And if we can all become stewards and protectors, as you've been doing for time immemorial, I truly believe that we can set up our children for a more promising future. Thank you so much for being here. And I just, when I think about the fact that your ancestors have been living here for over 12,000 years. It's an honor to be on your land with you and to know you. And thanks for being with us this evening. And I'm really excited that Mosier children and staff and all of us can come together and learn from you. And thank you.
Thank you, Miriam.
Thank you. I don't think I could say any better than that. Is there anyone else who has any questions or comments for Lucille?
Lucille, if you were able to just we'll stay in contact with you, because I sense there's quite an interest in the insights that your culture would bring to broaden our students' perspectives. I do believe our percentage is quite small as far as the Native population, but I'm so excited that this culture could potentially be brought as it's so many insights. Maria just indicated several. It would so benefit our young people now, our K-8. And I was just going to say, you had mentioned, the potential of like dancers or drums. I don't know but I think that would be unbelievably powerful if we could put together an assembly and support you and whoever we would need to contact, because I've personally witnessed many of those, and they literally blow you away. So that's very of interest to me. Some type of an assembly for all the kids.
Yeah, and whatever thoughts and ideas you guys have as far as an assembly, I mean, you may sit there baffled and well, like, what do we do? What can we do? There's different things. I mean, it can even be as simple as depends on your budget. If you have dancers, you can't have dancers dance to no music, so you have to have drummers. You don't have to expect to have a bunch of singers, maybe 2-3 gentlemen and 2 dancers. Back in the days, we had what's called war dancing. Nowadays, in the world we live in, there's so many fascinating different categories. We have up to 8 different categories. But in the old days, there was only 2 original dance styles. And you have a woman that dances with a basket hat on her head, and you have a gentleman that dances, in the war dancing style, so you would only need 2 dancers and maybe an elder maybe come and telling a story, or maybe a flute player, or and it's just, it kind of depends on what you guys want. I want to be mindful of your thoughts and ideas, and that's how we would go about it. So it's just, you guys pull your brains together and come up with an idea and thoughts and go from there.
That's great. We don't have chat on here, so could you yeah, could you maybe, or Marie could probably help, because you probably have each other's emails. Yeah. But it'd be great to have your contact, Lucille.
Yeah. And like I said, as if you guys needed me ASAP, all it takes is just to reach out to me and say, hey, does this day work for you, or this time? So and I really like the idea of working around the Thanksgiving, but not being respectful and mindful of it, helping the students understand. And because I get really touchy on that, because you don't want students going home saying, well, mom and dad, they said this and they said that, and then having lashback. We don't want bad communication. We don't want families thinking that we're shoving things down students' throat, because you have those families that live in that trauma, that live in racism, and and it's just, we all just want to do these for our students. We all just want a better life and better education, and it's only respectful for each other to learn each other's culture, because we live in all different, we come from different races. We may have a student that may be half Native American, half Hispanic, half Native American, half white, half Native American, half Samoan. So, where that indigenous comes in, we have to be mindful of that. I know that there's a Native American Day, there's Native American Heritage Month, but for me, I'm always on point with indigenous, because you don't want to categorize students, because some families may not identify as Native American, they're indigenous. I am slowly working on how I can form a powwow. I would like to have an annual powwow, and this is kind of my vision. I would like to have an annual powwow in for D21 as well as Hood River. And I don't expect it to be a huge thing. I know a lot of schools say, well, we don't have funding, we don't have money, or we can't give money, we can only give gift cards, but it takes fundraising. And I know that with the community that I work with, I have, big companies in the Dalles that are ready to rock and roll and say, hey, let us know. We're going to stand by you. We're going to help you make this happen. All it takes is to get sponsors, So you just want to make sure that, things like that. I think that would be a good idea, is to do a powwow for the students to witness and see. So that way it's not just favored for Native Americans, it's open to the public. Because I hear people say, well, we've always wanted to go Celilo, but we don't, because we don't know who will welcome there. Is it just for Native Americans? And nowadays people are really, territorial. So that's why I think a powwow for the whole environment and people of any race is welcome. And it'd be good for our teachers, So I think that's something that's in the future that I'm working with.
Thank you. Matt, please let us know as a board how we can support anything you need going forward. And Lucille, thank you for being here and educating us and spending your time with us.
Yeah, thank you. But I honestly have to go because I'm at a college where am I at again? It's been so busy all day, but I kind of need to get going. So
okay.
But Miriam
so
has my
time.
contact. She has my email and phone number, and you guys can reach out to me that way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. You guys have a good night.
You too.
Yeah,
Thank
take care.
you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you all for being a part of that presentation. And Matt, yes, please reach out with anything you need for support, and Marie can connect you with Lucille's contact information.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Marie.
Yes, Marie, thank you so much.
Well, yeah, she's a very, very, very special. I thought everyone would really appreciate hearing from her.
I think our students and staff would be highly enriched from anything we can put together.
Yes.
Certainly. Does anyone else have any other comments or questions before we adjourn for the evening?
The only other comment I would make is working with high school kids and being the only Caucasian in the classroom. I do think it would help some of our kids. They're much younger, but simply understanding the importance of tolerance and the differences in people. So just being exposed to the native culture and the multitude of tribes she might speak about, the salmon, all those type of things, it just sort of helps kids just come together in their petty little differences or ethnic differences. I didn't say it, but I almost mentioned as she was talking, one of the toughest things for kids in the native tribes, there were 3 tribes where I taught, is they would call each other half-breed. And when they were called that, it was very, very derogatory. So, it's in every culture, we have challenges.
Yeah, I think that the more we can expose our kids to seeing other cultures and having people come in and talk about that, the better off they're going to be. So yeah. Definitely supportive of anything we can do to make those connections here with Lucille and the the tribes that have been here a lot longer than we have. So, thank you.
I have a question. Lucille brought up that she can be supportive as a substitute teacher's aide. And is that something when you're going through the daily process of needing a substitute, are you able to kind of pick and choose who you work with? No.
Oh, yes. And that was highly of interest to me. If the certifications, and again, within a charter, I just need to do a little bit of double checking, but yes, we are right now in need of subs for sure. And just to have her in the building potentially all day with kids, it would be sort of not an in run, but it would get her into the building. So I'll definitely want to ask her a little more about that.
Yeah, right now, as you know, Matt, we have one PA sub.
Yeah. And she's actually been here before. I didn't know that. So
Yeah, I haven't seen her in a couple of years. But yeah, she used to come and sit for our one student, and it was helpful.
And right now, do we have any Native American students?
one, you think, Jim?
One at this time, yeah. I can double check if any new came in this year, but it's been one for the past 5 years.
But without doing research, her point earlier, maybe there's some students that have some Native in their family. They might
don't
not
know it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a good friend that just found out that kind of where his background was from, and he was unaware of the amount of Native background that he has, and it's been a big life-changing thing for him too. So I think there's a lot of kids probably that don't even know.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know what their family background is.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Flood shared with me the other day, and I don't think she'd mind. From what she told me, I think she's 1/8 Native in her own family.
Yeah, and Dawn is also a good portion Native.
I didn't know that.
Okay.
Yep. Have any of you guys, I'm just curious, have you ever seen or been to, I'm sure you probably have, a powwow or, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They also do a circle, because it's so important in their culture of dance. And everyone is invited to just slowly go down onto the floor, and you're just right next to each other. It's pretty powerful. It takes a few minutes.
No, I think it'd be great to get that kind of activity for our kids to see, and just get their more perspectives for them to be aware of, especially this month. So, all right, please let us know if there's anything we can do to help facilitate that, Matt or Jen, whoever is working on that.
Marie and you guys just set it up, so thank you for creating a bridge there.
Certainly. If there's no other content, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 6 o'clock. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There.